The title of this story is Twas the Greenhouse Gas. The title was based on Twas the Night Before Christmas, which is a poem about the night before Christmas. So I made my lines rhyme too. So this is the first illustration. It's our main character, Emma, looking out at a bunch of smog. Alright. There once was a town, very big, quite a lot. This town, their air was quite hot. This was all because of one source. This town, their citizens made gas with course. They used cars, they had trash, and batteries galore. So you can imagine their air was quite poor. You see, yes, gas, their production was quite abundant. It seemed when they went into the car, they all gunned it. All this smog, all this gas, no one could stand it. One man sold bottled air, he also canned it. But he's not the villain of our story. If you did meet him, he turned out quite poorly. See, all the townspeople's gases rose. They combined, created a mighty foe. He came back down and heated things up. Heated things more than a heater. He smelled like the pickles picked by Peter. Our hero of this, Emma, was wondering why this would happen. Everything stank. It stank worse than a pun. She decided to go out into her town and investigate. Unfortunately, our villain was smart, and he set some bait. Our hero went around town, seeing what could be wrong. Unfortunately, she was hunting an extinct bird's song. She thought maybe it was rotting dead animals, or maybe fish poke from all the gulls. Maybe it was an excess of drink from the bar. Maybe a production of smog from a car. All this evidence, it took quite a toll, so our hero went to the telephone pole. She called all her friends. She had quite a lot. She even called the local dog, Spud. She needed everyone to help with her plan, but first they needed a sample of air, perhaps from a can. So they went to the air cellar and bought some of his air, and they took a look what was trapped up in there. There wasn't much to see, just some regular old air. Then they looked at the air from out there. Yes, the air out from outside, what they found was comparable to animal hide. It was thick, it was toxic as green can be. It was certainly not good for a regular old tree. Emma and friends were bamboozled, quite confused, because this smog wasn't like anything that was used. What does this mean? Said Emma, quite muddled. This smog is thicker than a puddle. Well, we could test the mineral compound of what's inside, but of course we'd have to go to see Dr. Clyde. Everyone in the loom began to shiver because Clyde was a lobe short of a liver. He was town sicko, mumbling insane words galore, but his IQ was in digits of 4. It was true that they had no other choice. They had to go. But when and how would they go? They decided to go the very next week, otherwise their future would look quite bleak. But getting to Clyde's proved to be quite tricky. He lived surrounded by cacti, which were quite prickly. He also lived on the highest cliff in town. The air was thin and the grass was brown. When the time to leave had arrived, they left with a nice car to drive. They arrived at the foot of a cliff. They put on special suits to keep them from being pricked. They were up, careful which step of the way, got to the rest. To others, they would say. They eventually got to the top, at the lab and house, and very long drop. They knocked on the door, nervous what they'd see. They saw a man who hadn't shaved since 1983. He had a beard longer than his IQ. He looked crazy, it was true, but he was the only one with good enough equipment, good enough to see what was in it. So they all nervously asked Dr. Clyde, we need a microscope and a mask. Fine, I'll give you a sec, but please don't make anything wrecked. They were bulls in a china shop, stumbling around, in fear that the sound and vibrations would make their visit below expectations. But at last they reached the microscope to examine the collected isotope. What they found was truly terrifying. What they couldn't believe what was applying. It was from all sources of pollution, even the rivers with fish poop in them. It's all in there, all of it. But how did it combine like that? No matter what it created, who did they have to berate? Emma remembered what she saw coming from the city. all that pollution rising up. It wasn't pretty, but Emma had for her friends, and they all wanted to go to an end. Fortunately, there were many others in their city, all bringing their clean town hopes down, but then they all started a campaign to make the gas demon become slain. Amazingly, this plan didn't work. No one cared how they got to work. They kept using fuelful cars, making enough smog to reach planet Mars. Defeated, dejected, the group walked back to their homes, feeling as red as the cap of the gnome. They need some other way to unpollute the air, so Emma sat down in the thinking chair. She thought for a while, she thought for an hour, for a way to attack the villain with power, but after a little bit of time, she thought of something that was quite just fine. She decided to track down the combined gas and see what made him an extremely unpleasant person. Also to see what made him tick, and why he was such a bad person, why he was denser than a truck, and just ask him, why were you doing this? She looked around, wide and far, to see the man making the air subpar. What was made from the gas of a car? What was made from the excess of a bar? She was looking for him when she saw the mayor and asked him to establish an anti-smog layer to the constitution of their town to make the smog production go straight down. He agreed to do it on one condition. Emma would attend the yearly Festival of Fun. The Festival of Fun was a yearly event with no fun or cringe. It would be more fun to fix a car hinge, but she had to, or else the smog would win, leaving her with a failed task, disappointing kin. When the day to go was around, she asked her mom to drive to the fairgrounds. She arrived and her mom drove away. She went in for all work, no play. She did the activities as fast as she could, which included pace the fence and Breakwater Road. When she'd done all the things that were planned, she went to a seat and began hatching a plan on how to stop the evil smog from reverting the earth back to a bog. She came up with a plan, a great one at that, to knock out the villain with a rat-a-tat-tat. She went to the mayor when she asked her mom, and the mayor wrote out the law. Hooray, said Emma, jumping without fret, but her quest was not quite over yet. You see, a day after the law was created, the greenhouse gas made the mayor serenaded, and he almost abolished the law, but Emma came out of the bathroom stall, holding a vacuum cleaner to save the day. She sucked up the gas with a mighty saying. This smog is toast, she said with a cry. She smacked the smog right out of the sky. She took the vacuum to the dump, and she kicked it right back in the rump. She went back home, and she spent some time alone to calm her nerves, to make sure she wouldn't fret, because her battle with the smog was not quite over yet. Bowling the cake back to the dump with the vacuum cleaner with a hurt rump. When the vacuum started to move with a suck and a blast and a quite long tube, the villain was now a household device, less threatening but a factor of twice. But he was a more difficult foe to beat. The ice was linen in the car seat. But he traveled to the hero of our story, broke into their brother's room, Corey. He crept down the room without making a peep, and prepared a trick that would be considered quite cheap. She got to her room and set up a lure, and when he played it, Emma opened the door. She saw nothing there, but then she turned around and saw the greenhouse gas with a frown. Emma laid out a big old scream and began running down her local street. She knew where to be to establish defeat. She went to the greenhouse, which housed lots of trees. She waited until the greenhouse gas came in, and then was reduced to absolutely nothing.